by the looks of it, it does look like Rockstar Games is going to be getting away with holding up the gaming space for the better part of the past half decade here, and I'm afraid set a precedent in the gaming industry that might just be irreversible. Now, since 2021, just about every other game company has anticipated its newest release with Grand Theft Auto 6, with the only big company studios releasing in that meantime being the ones that work on either a different type of project or, studios across the world, like companies that brought you Resident Evil or Dark Souls franchise. Now, just about every other company outside of that has been pretty scared in these past few years, better part of the half decade, as I said, to release their next big hitting title, which kind of has left a lot of the gamers in the space left with these scraps in the meantime. For example, take a look at the company Bethesda Studios or Telltale Games, who have been in kind of a parallel spot as Rockstar, just with worse execution with both, the Elder Scrolls and Fallout and, whatever Telltale got going on at this point. Wolfie!
Ready to get to work?
But stay tuned, because we're going to be talking about the Bethesda parallels here in a moment. Not so much about Telltale, because their issue became money, which is an entirely different monster of an issue than what Rockstar had to face. But if another company is not following the formula that these other companies have, they've really just been mass producing some sort of AI slop open world, like pretty much any Ubisoft title, Far Cry's, Assassin's Creed, you name it. Now, this has made way for some pretty cool, indie games to pop up for small creators to kind of get in the spotlight a little bit on, I guess, a positive note. But a lot of these companies are smaller, so they really don't have the budget to pull something off at the same level, at those high levels that a Rockstar Games or a Bethesda Studios are able to do, with many of those games and their companies going out of service not long after its initial release and initial viral moment. Now, with Rockstar able to allocate millions upon millions of dollars on their legal team alone, that's, of course, why they've been able to produce such a high-quality product, such as Red Dead Redemption 2 or the recent Grand Theft Auto. If there is an issue that they can find within their systems, they usually just throw money at the problem to not only fix it, but to make it a revolutionary new type of technology. Now, with Bethesda is where things do get a little bit interesting. This is where we're going to dig into them and their parallel a little bit, with them not being as big as Rockstar Games, but still being one of the bigger gaming studios out there. You commonly see their games with a buggy state that they are usually left in. Now, as a company that produces as much income as Bethesda Game Studios, at this point, they should be able to revamp either an entirely new engine or just throw money at the bugs that exist on the one they currently use, like Rockstar has been doing. But these guys, I don't know when, I don't know where, but they have since realized that they don't really get money for spending their time on a bug fix, so they really don't allocate much resources, if any, or any time on making that engine any better than what it currently is. Now, with Bethesda, they released Skyrim and Fallout New Vegas before Rockstar released GTA 5, and by that point in their franchises, both of the companies had already been well-known titles that had both won Game of the Years. With it producing millions and millions of copies being sold, that's when the businessmen in their corporate offices decided to kind of take over and make that strategic decision to shift from intriguing the new player base to maximizing the players that they currently already have. It was kind of at this time where microtransactions were really starting to emerge in these games, and companies had taken advantage of it in the past when it came to DLC, of course, but this is where they really started to kind of test the limits on how micro these transactions could really get. Skyrim definitely was a heavy one to do this. There was, I don't know, like I said, I don't know when, I don't know where, but there was a certain point where, these companies paused, had a meeting together and decided that, yeah, microtransactions, they're great, but the best type of customers are going to be the ones that reoccur, the customers that buy again and again and again. And this is where they decided to make a shift online with both companies. Rockstar made the innovation first, of course, and ended up perfecting the formula with GTA 5 after the anarchy that was Grand Theft Auto 4 and their online system. But Bethesda, on the other hand, ended up flopping entirely when they tried with Fallout 76 and the Elder Scrolls Online. But I think that's a little bit more because it's a role-playing game and a way more difficult to pull off with multiplayer than, blowing shit up with the boys. Those games have been tailored for the decision-making aspect and how you shape the world based off your choices. Kind of the system it was built off is a system that is purely only going to work in a single-player type of formula. On a multiplayer system, which is why, in my opinion, a single player formula on a multiplayer system, it's kind of just doomed to fail from the very start of it. Although, in my opinion, one of the weaker games in the franchise, Fallout 4, the marketability on that one, just based off the system of it being a single player decision making, although it kind of sucked in that aspect as well, but being advertised as such made it one of the top performers in that studio, which kind of confirms that they're good at the single player formula type of game, which of course unfortunately doesn't pay the same as a online MMO, which they solidified with the L that was Fallout 76, that they can't do it. And honestly, they're still trying to redeem that title to this day. Also, having the game be online and an entirely different game in itself felt like a formula also doomed for failure as well, because you're trying to get people hyped for a new game, but the way you do that is, LARPing off the old game's audience. It just wasn't ever going to work. Now, with Rockstar, though, they actually incorporated online into their original product with a possibility of the microtransactions being worked into the engine from the start. With, of course, the ability to buy an in-game currency, the money in the game. Now, that formula felt like it was destined for success. Game setting where you are a criminal boss hustling to get that change, of course, it was going to take money to get money. Greenlight went hard on that one, and it did succeed, with it selling so much money to the point where it basically funded the entire $2 billion project of GTA 6. Meanwhile, you see Bethesda out here, they're scrambling for answers with, these microtransactions with paid mods and such. Yes, the formula Rockstar made them bound for success, but a lot of the success could have easily been fumbled the way that Telltale did by forcing a system that wasn't meant for them. Now, how did Rockstar end up holding the gaming space from a, business mindset? With the release in Grand Theft Auto 5, they learned something very crucial, and that was mastering the art of timing. And they did that to maximize their products and their profits, of course. And you might ask, how did they end up doing that? If they could time their release of the game to come out around the same time as the new console, basically for the price of making one game, they have the ability to sell two, which is pretty genius when you sit back and think about it. They did it with Grand Theft Auto 5, selling a bunch of copies on the 360 PS3 era, and a couple months later they did do it again with the Xbox One and PS4, and then low-key they did it again with the people buying the Xbox Series and PS5, which goes to show how much they've been holding up the gaming space. And when you look at the near future, you're going to realize coming out soon, at the same time as the talks of the new generations, they're going to release their new console or their new product of game, GTA 6, which they're going to be able to sell it on this current generation, the series and the PS5, but in a couple years as well here soon with, the PS6 and whatever the hell Xbox's next project will be. But it kind of turned into like a business strategy, and like a lot of corporations do, because they really, at the end of the day, like, they just care about that percentage increase at the end of each quarter when they are looking at the charts, when they are in that, main office room. And especially with Rockstar being one of the leaders in the gaming industry, that has kind of followed suit with a lot of other companies following their example. Now, a lot of them, they don't have the same financial flexibility that Rockstar does have, which is why you have seen a lot of companies end up performing way worse at that same exact formula. But it really doesn't get away from the fact that they are attempting it in the first place and trying to see if it works, which not only is degrading the median of the quality of games in this past few years, but is also, like, kind of take a moment and, like, think about it. When was, like, the last time you properly had been excited for a game's release and that game lived up for the hype? It kind of ruined that hype cycle as well. For me, Elden Ring was the last one, which doesn't seem that long ago, but at this point, it's almost a 4-year-old game. And I think is one of the reasons why they've been able to get away from it is, the time perception after COVID kind of failing on us. All of a sudden, every day kind of bleeds into the next, and then you turn around and 4 years went by and there's no progress in the gaming space at all. Now, I think a lot of games have hit their peak on just what games can be in general and kind of their potential. I don't think we are going to see another jump like we did from the 360 PS3 era to the PS4 Xbox One era. But pretty much, every game, like, the reason as to why, like, every game now is running at, like, the highest possible graphics settings. But that's also the reason why you've seen indie games with working concepts perform so well as well. I mean, at this point, everybody can run a 4K 60 FPS game, but those who design a game with a good, type of engine really intrigue people for a new audience. And that kind of brings me to, where are the new games? Like, there really hasn't been any big new games for quite some time. Of course, you've seen the recent, Resident Evil 9, but the last time a big company produced a game that was worth sticking to was, in my opinion, Elden Ring, who also thought they were going to be competing for Game of the Year with GTA 6 at the time, which was 4 years ago. I mean, of course, other titles have popped up like Baldur's Gate and such, but for the average gamer, they don't really think of that type of style of games. I know personally myself, I haven't really thought of that type of game unless you're someone who likes to experiment with games. But based off that last statement, like, Elden Ring released in 2022, they thought they were going to be competing with GTA 6 4 years ago for their Game of the Year. And they just decided, we're going to do it anyways. And I think that's a lot of the spots that a lot of the other companies are in as well, where they don't want to compete for it, so they've just been holding off, which has caused this kind of blockade in the gaming industry. But I kind of hope that puts it into perspective of just how much of a blockade this game has put into the space of gaming. And even when you do look back at it, when the last one came out, it was surrounded by a plethora of, I guess, different type of titles. Back then, you really had to prove yourself to be even worth screen time with all the bangers that were coming out at that same time. And with a lot of these companies, like, producing their titles as such, a lot of big companies nowadays, they don't even feel the need that they need to do even that anymore. Like, they felt like they've created that initial wave that they'll be able to just ride that momentum all the way out, kind of like a rocket ship getting off into space and just using everything at that point to push them forward. But that's why a lot of these companies you see now are failing. And small indie companies have been able to pop up, yes, but without having that same amount of funding, you've never been able to do that same amount of stuff, or, ends up becoming a limited concept, unfortunately. Like, take a look at High on Life. You know, it's a funny game, but the concept is very much limited. It's only going to succeed as far as it succeeded. That initial prop is pretty much the only time that game will get the recognition. Like, that is the peak of its recognition, is basically my point. Same thing with like a, Escape the Backrooms or such. It's a limited type of concept. So at the end of the day, it's only going to get that limited type of recognition, unfortunately. Versus, of course, your Grand Theft Auto concept, which is an open world concept. You could keep replicating winning products within, with selling bunkers and biker businesses and all that type of stuff. And you could do that until the client base is literally bled dry. I mean, it works, which is why it makes sense why Rockstar as a company continued to do it. And it is also kind of human at the same time to feel some type of way that I have been feeling these past few years, because I feel like the past few years in terms of games have literally been robbed from me with potential titles and things that we could have witnessed, and companies getting held back years on their schedules as well. And especially somebody who's, growing up, I don't have the time that I do now. And so with games gonna finally being unlocked after GTA 6 is released, now I don't have the time that I did to be able to enjoy it like I did in the past. But do I think this is going to be something that's irreversible? No. And here's kind of why. I believe there's, at this point in the industry, a certain level of awareness that is going on with, the dead gaming space. You even see it now with the new Xbox CEO starting to crack down on a lot of that, pressuring studios to, I guess, get to work, or we're cutting the funding and, trimming down the size. And a lot of the companies at the moment are living off their reputation, as you've seen, of their past works. But there has also been a new dawn, of course, of those smaller creators being able to get noticed for these big companies to step in with their money and help out with their financial problems as angel investors. But I think we're seeing a big reversal, kind of holding off until the last possible second, on that, like a big reversal on that type of deal. Thanks to Xbox, I think. They really kind of took the initiative to tell studios to kind of step it up, or consequences will be faced. But that doesn't get rid of the history, and I guess the mark that has been left in the games industry, and that's history as well. Now, in conclusion, I do honestly feel quite bad for the shell that is Grand Theft Auto 5 at this point in this gaming cycle. Once a world with new innovation and surprise around every corner, like even in the story mode, you can still feel the mystique that surrounded Grand Theft Auto 5, where they didn't update that after a certain point. Now, online, that mystique is entirely gone. They ended up squeezing every last juice out of it slowly over the years by flooding it in with a bunch of new things to spend your money on. And it sucks now because, the memory of Grand Theft Auto 5 is not so much going to be associated with the fun memories that came in the mid-2010s, but instead it's going to be associated with the long, drawn-out death of its gaming cycle in the 2020s. I really hope that they don't end up doing this as well with Grand Theft Auto 6, but with how much they spent on it and how successful Grand Theft Auto 5 was, I think it's impossible at this point, knowing that it is a winning formula. But let me know what you think. Are you upset with Rockstar Games for holding up the gaming space for the past few years? Kind of let me know in the comments down below. But if you enjoyed this Yap session, be sure you leave a comment, like, and subscribe so you don't miss any of my future videos. But outside of that, you guys have a blessed rest of y'all day and stay safe.
Hey, we good, T?
Never better, amigo.
Good.
Franklin?
I'll be here. Franklin,
Hey, what's up?
I assume you got him?
Ooh, safe and sound. Ain't that right, buddy?
Hey, my bad, homie. I picked C. Ain't that a bitch?
You know, Devin, the way I see it, and hey, I'm no intelligent businessman like you, but the way I see it, there's two great evils that bedevil American capitalism of the type that you practice. Number one is outsourcing. You paid a private company to do your dirty work for you, and then you underpaid that company because you thought you were big enough and bad enough that you didn't have to play by the rules. Oh, number two, offshoring your profits.
Offshore?
Oh, it's horrible. You wouldn't want to be sent offshore just to save a little money, would you, T?
No, I
Franklin?
wouldn't.
Oh, nah, I ain't
Would you
going
want?
nowhere.
No, see, but we know your opinions on the matter, Devin. Keep your problems the fuck out of America, huh?
In this instance, when he puts it like that, it makes sense.
Of course it does. Hey, Devin. Goodbye, my old friend. Thanks for all the advice.
Bye-bye.
So now what?
Now we keep a low profile and get on with our lives.
As friends?
Well, do I have a choice?
No, not really.
All right, then. As, flawed, awful, totally uncomfortable, and poorly matched friends. Absolutely.
Oh, that's perfect. Then we can get back to the kind of capitalism we practice.
Shit, I don't know how much more better that is than Devin's kind.
Ooh, hypocrisy, Franklin. Civilization's greatest virtue.
Jesus, your therapist has a lot to answer for.
I know, I still hate myself. But hey, at least I know the words for it now.
Yeah, but I hate you, and I know the words for it. So does that mean I don't have to go to therapy?
Look, man, you two motherfuckers terrify me of that middle age. I'm good.
You're right to be afraid, Franklin.
Yeah.
Be very afraid, Franklin. Tell you one thing, T. I'm getting too old for this nonsense. Oh.
Prepare for the end, my friend.
I don't lose!